Alright guys, we're going to get started on the Lake Texoma Breakdown, Scare It with Instructional Angler. Um, I can see why this has been my most requested lake so far. I have a feeling there's a little bit of everything going on here. You've got smallmouth that come into play at certain times of the year. Sometimes the smallmouth are the winning bag, but it looks like if it were my home lake, I would focus on the largemouth. I'm going to show you a couple of smallmouth type spots where I think that they'll pull up, but also kind of focus more on largemouth, that flipping and pitching bite, um, because the smallmouth are going to be more predicated on the bait. If you can find the bait, you're going to find smallmouth, and you're going to find some big smallmouth. But I don't think they're going to pull up in the same spots every day. I think they're going to chase that bait a little bit more. They're not going to set up and call home grounds on specific areas like they do up in maybe the Great Lakes and those types of spots. These rock piles that are here are pretty small rock piles. The points are pretty pitiful points in certain areas of the lake. I would focus on largemouth. I'm going to go over a little bit of both of those with you, and I'll show you what I'm thinking and why. We're actually going to start with the Google Earth, in kind of a what I would consider a smally largemouth mixture area. I think you can find some deeper largemouth here at certain times of the year, so that summer bite. I do think you can catch some pre-spawners here in the spring as well. So we're going to go take a look at it. On this, the first thing that I kind of notice, whenever I break down a lake for you guys, I'm going to try to break down one specific area, finding good things in one area. You can go run those things. If I were to show up here for a tournament tomorrow, this is one area that I would look at to see if this bite was happening. Here are the things that I would look at, the things that I would scan, and kind of I'll show you why I picked these areas. First, focusing on the largemouth, I'm going to pull back into the back of this creek mouth. These docks are going to provide some cover, provide transition areas for these bass. You're going to run into some pre-spawners here. This section right here is one of the better sections that I found on the lake. I'm going to show you why. It looks like a do-nothing bank. If I am just looking at this, this is a do-nothing bank to me. With Google Earth, that gives you the tools to go back in and look at what this lake has done in the past. So when I change this view and I go back a couple of years, so we're back to 2014 when this lake was down, I change this view, I start to notice all of these rock piles. These are man-made rock piles, I would assume, especially due to their distance they are from each other. I would assume these are man-made rock piles, and they're pretty good-looking rock piles. They're not your little rip-rap rock piles. These are chunk rock piles. These are going to hold fish, especially in that pre-spawn and that spawn staging period. They're not in super deep water. Let's look at that and see that on Navionics, see what kind of depth that area is in. So you are looking at, you're talking 7 to 8 foot, kind of right in the middle of that section there, 7 to 8 foot. You are going to find, oh, I did not transition. So here's what it looks like on Navionics. So that is going to be in that 7 to 8 foot range, right on that transition line where those pre-spawn fish are going to be moving up into this flat and going to be moving back towards the back of this cove. Let's go back to Google Earth. We're on Earth now, so here we go. That is a starting section I would start on. Moving over here, you've got 2 creek channels funneling in on the east and west side of this rock pile. It's not a major rock pile, but it's going to hold some fish. You've got a little bit of wood on it as well, so there are going to be fish that hold here. Again, here's what it looks like currently with the water up. This is kind of what this area looks like. versus 2014. I mean, you're sitting in 7 to 8 foot of water on some solid cover. These docks look great. Bait is going to hold on these docks, and these fish are going to hold on these docks. I would definitely pick these docks apart and check those areas out. I'll move out of the mouth of this a little bit. I wanted to find some kind of main lake stuff for you guys to check out. If you look at all of these points, most of these points are pretty simple. I have a feeling it's tough to find your schooling fish on the points here. They're just not much of a difference in them. So you're going to have to find those points that have a little bit of rock, that have a little bit of grass on them, and try to pick those specific points apart, because all the other points are going to struggle to hold bait. A lot of these points on kind of the left side of the screen, I think bait is just going to travel through there, and you're going to get some schooling fish through there, but you're not going to hold fish to a specific point. This point right here, I really liked this one. And if you look at it closely on the map, you'll notice that it has 2 layers of riprap. You have your riprap up along the bank here, and then you also have kind of a deeper layer of riprap where that riprap's kind of fallen down. This would be a point worth checking out. I would be looking for some schooling fish on that in the morning. Would be a good chance to find some schooling smallmouth. Got a rock pile off of this small point here. Check that. I've got a pretty major point as far as, I call these 2 major points that I have, kind of the major point and then the 2 structure points. I would consider these the better points on the lake. Looking at what this lake typically looks at, the major point here, I mean, you're looking at this as one of the bigger points on this section of the lake. So picking it apart will be worth the time. Definitely scanning it. There could be some rock piles on this as well. If you can find those rock piles, you're going to find some fish. You've got some structure points here. Another solid point in the back of this cove. Looks like some big chunk rock on this point. That's going to hold bait, and that's going to hold fish better than, for example, this point right here most of the time. Well, that point's on some riprap. You might get a few fish pulling out there on the deep edge of that. But your points with the rock and with the structure are going to hold your bait a little bit better. I would check these for kind of schooling flats, kind of nice flats, main lake points. I would check those to see if there are any schooling fish. And then this area right here looks like a great schooling flat. You've got deep water access, especially for smallmouth, running this riprap bank. There are going to be schooling fish on this flat. All right, let's look at this section with Navionics real quick. All right. So looking at this section with our Navionics mapping on the Navionics web app, that point got even better. The point that I said was a major point, it just got better. Okay. Screen's going a little crazy on me. All right, here's why this point got better to me. Let's look at it on Earth real quick. Make sure I've got the correct point. Okay, yes, that is the creek channel. So that point sitting right on the creek channel. I'll show it on Earth for you guys as well. You can even see on Earth, you can see the creek channel marked there. There are going to be fish holding on this creek channel point. I would assume a majority of the year. There are going to be fish on this point most of the year. Definitely a spot that I would check out. Back to Navionics. I want to see what that schooling flat, see what we got going on over here. The big flat that I thought they would school on up next to the bridge. I would be surprised if there are not fish that don't spawn right here. Let's look at the structure on Google Earth real quick. I mean, you've got deep water access everywhere, and then you've got what I would assume would be a big spawning flat all the way up to that next point. That is a transition point. I don't think there's any structure there. But you may have. Okay, I'm gonna put it up on Earth for you guys. Put some water back on this so we can see what it looks like with water on it. I would say you're going to find a few spawning fish on this flat too. So pre-spawn, definitely an area with that rip-rap bank there. You're going to find some schooling fish. And I would say you would find a couple of spawners back on that flat. It's not a major spawning flat, but you will find a few spawners there as well. We're going to move down to another section. Okay, that was just kind of a some random picks, some things I would check out. That point, the main point that I pointed out to you, that's Creek Channel Point, going to hold fish all year. We're going to kind of jump. I was trying to do like a tournament breakdown. We're going to jump to another side of the lake, though. One of the main creek arms on this other side of the lake. I would say, let's see here, the Gordonville Creek arm. I would say there are some good tournaments won out of this creek arm. If you fish Lake Texoma, let me know if I'm right on that. I'm going to guess there are some tournaments won here. The flipping bite at Texoma is kind of a renowned bite. You're going to catch fish here. You are going to be able to flip and catch fish here. Now, if I were to be picking a creek within this to focus on, if I moved down to Texoma and I wanted to be able to catch fish regularly out of one creek on Texoma, I would choose this creek to start with. And I'm going to focus on this section right here, Paradise Cove, all the way down to, oddly enough, it's called Dead Woman Pond. So Paradise Cove, down through there. The why I chose this is I chose this due to kind of it setting up for pre-spawning and spawning fish. And here are the specific little cuts that I would check for spawning and pre-spawning fish. You've got transition banks here. You've got some pretty good transition banks. A little bit of deeper water for these fish to hold to. But you've got creeks pushing in, so you're going to have some warmer water. If on those warming trends, you're going to have warmer water pushing in here. This cut right here is going to be money. The same for the cut back here behind the marina. This thing is kind of hidden right here. But these docks in the back and this structure in the back of this little cut are going to produce fish every spring. It's kind of a do-nothing cove here. A lot of do-nothing banks. I like this cut a lot. The back end of it looks to me like it has a little bit of some bluff wall, transition, and then a good looking spawning flat with two creek channels coming in on the backside of it. This little section right here in the center, kind of zoomed in on it now, you are going to be able to catch fish out of that this spring. So that's summertime, that when the smallies are going to play a little bit, I would go to that northern section of the lake. Springtime, I'm going to the southern section near Paradise Cove. If you fish these spots, or if you go fish some of these spots that I'm showing you and you catch fish off of them, let me know if they're any good. I like to get feedback. We've had some guys win tournament money with our breakdowns. We've had guys catch fish all over the United States with our breakdowns, and I would just like to get an idea. Have you fished these areas before? Are they any good? So that's kind of what I'm looking for out of you. I'd like some feedback on that. You can put it in the comments here on YouTube. Send me an email. I do have a transition slide here. So contact info. Instagram, if you don't follow me on Instagram yet, go follow me at Instructional Angler and send me an email if you want a lake breakdown or if you want a personal lake breakdown. I can do that for you. I won't post it to YouTube if I do a personal breakdown. So if that's something you're interested in, we can talk about that a little bit. But trying to keep these with 10 15 minutes. 15 minutes is up. If you fish Lake Texoma, these breakdowns will catch you some fish. That main Lake Point, Paradise Cove, those are places I'm focusing if I'm going to Texoma. If you have any questions, drop a comment below.